So you want to learn about different types of support units, huh? Let's talk about damage supports. Alright, so damage supports are unit types that deal damage, but are not your main damage units. They're not going to be primarily killing things or enemy phasing. They're mostly going to be setting up kills, debuffing, dealing chip damage, or providing extra damage to your actual damage units. So to begin, let's talk about this build. So this build can be used on any hero, and essentially it is a Lucina build where you leverage Brave Assist and Lucina giving Dual Assist Plus to a hero for basically for free as long as they use Lucina long enough and you do her paralog, and you basically get 2 chain attacks 70% of the time as long as the unit can reach, and if you have the unit equip a 1 to 2 range weapon, it extends their reach slightly for Dual Assist. So this is an example. In this particular example, I sometimes use Bonded Shield on a Leer so that when allies attack, they can get a damage increase by being next to a Leer from Divinely Inspiring. They get a damage increase from Brave Assist triggering, and then on enemy phase, they also get Bonded Shield plus Divinely Inspiring. So here is kind of like a weird build, but here's some more standard ones. So here's the same thing, but just on a generic hero. So here's like a hero, Goldmary. She has speed plus 5. Goldmary's not the fastest character, so you're going to need to feed her speed wings if you want her doubling, and she also needs a fast emblem. In this case, I gave her Roy, which does increase speed. It only gives her plus 2 speed. It gives some units plus 3 when engaged, so it can help push her over to getting to doubling thresholds. But the main use case here is she wants to attack something, even if it's for low damage, just to deal some chip damage. And then once she's in position, in this case, she now has her Dual Assist. So if someone else attacks,
say the word,
we now get Dual Assist. So that's like the main use case. You just position the hero aggressively, or in some cases just rely on Dual Assist plus working, or just having her within range. Now another damage support. Now this Saphir, she needs Draconic Axe. I'm just not using her in this playthrough. So you run Draconic Axe on her. You can run a longbow. You can use like hit increase. You're probably going to need hit increase over the damage increase. And the idea is that she is a longbow debuffer. So she would just like shoot something, debuff it. Ideally, she would run like Lyn, Erica, Byleth, Alear engravings so that she can have better hit rates so that she can actually hit consistently. In this case, I just threw Ike on her because I was planning on using her as like a damage dealer, but against fast enemies, her hit rate's quite suspect. But the idea here is that you debuff, deal chip damage, and then you have this 2 to 3 range backup. Now you can also get the Claude Ring to make her 2 to 4 range, so that you get chain assists just from her being relatively close to enemies. So now if something else attacks,
here goes.
we have a ton of chain assists, a ton of chain attacks. But in this case, this is kind of like a Thoron debuffer, but instead it's with the longbow. This is best used on units like Amber, to some degree Etier, if you want to run her long term. Saphir and Amber are definitely better. You could run this on Panette, she's better off as a hard carry, but you could still use this and leverage her high strength. You just want to run a hit increase engraving, longbow plus whatever you can get it to, and then run Draconic Axe, so then you can debuff enemies, deal damage, and then also set up additional damage on enemies this unit is near. We also have the Sage Thoron, so this is another like build archetype. So you use Thoron, you can use Corrin with Cantor. In this case, this Hortensia wasn't really being used in this playthrough, but you can run her with Cantor so that she can move in, snap freeze on Corrin, and move out, and then she has debuff from equipping Corrin, or you can just give her Cantor and Draconic Axe so that she can get in and out, debuff things, deal damage. Thoron on most magical units is enough to deal 20 to 30 damage on the average, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. So you can see she's doing 22 to this enemy. This is like a low investment Hortensia that just was reclassed and is level 5. So this is on chapter 20, so she can just like shoot this dude for pretty good damage. Now if you run Byleth or Lyn or Erica as the engravings, you get crit increase, so you get like 10 to 30 crit. So sometimes you'll just roll a crit and just kill things. So if you just open all of your turns with using all of your Thoron debuffers or just your Thoron units in general, you could just get free kills you wouldn't have gotten otherwise on units who don't even have like highly invested in builds. So that can be very useful. Another thing, and this is the final support type, is just a simple Chi Adept. Now Chi Adept, I think, has two modes. It has don't kill me mode and I'm gonna beat you to death mode. Now, obviously you can staff bot and stuff like that in Chain Guard, but the don't kill me mode is when you're trying to Chain Guard. You would equip like some evasion increasing thing, ideally. So look at this, avoid 98 on Fram, just from having this Iron Body art, while also being next to Alear. So they're less likely to attack Fram and more likely to attack Alear because our avoid is so high. So 98 avoid. This enemy has 110 hit. He'd have like 20% hit rate on her. Now, if I got her avoid passive, she'd be unhittable. So that's what the first mode is. The second mode is fishing for kills. So if you level up your supports enough, and if they get, you know, enough speed, they can quad in one round. In this case, this Fram is severely underleveled, but I've had Frams that can completely just like one round things off of Lunar Brace and Flashing Fist. So she's basically usually like a Lucina support, like a Lucina bonded shield unit on Chi Adept, so she gets tons of XP from constantly bonded shielding, which power levels her, and then she can randomly pop off with the Flashing Fist and just beat something to death. So you get a utility unit who can also kill as needed. And in this particular run, I used bonded shield on Alear just to try out this build for fun, but this is a very powerful combo, and if you get her Lunar Brace just base level, you don't even need Lunar Brace plus. If she's on Lucina, she will be one-rounding a lot of things on Flashing Fist. Now obviously this is player phase only, but it allows you to take a non-combat unit and have them kill, you know, clean up like a mage. She can break, the nice thing is she can break tomes, bows, and daggers, so this like annoying Wolf Knight, she can go up and break it. She can, in some cases, one-round it. She can usually one-round like archers, mages, enemies like this. So it's a pretty useful build. It's pretty good. I've used this on like low man runs, like 5-man run and 7-man run, and she was able to hold her own as a damage carry in a way. But if you just use her as your Lucina shield, bonded shield user, she will power level, and she can just walk up to things and one-round them on Flashing Fist, especially with Lunar Brace. If you get Lunar Brace and Lunar Brace Plus, you can usually one-round armors through their armor with Flashing Fist also, which is pretty funny, just because you get so much bonus damage, or at the very least you'll deal like high damage. So that's it for these basic support types. You have your hero, dual assists, and then just hero positioning just to get extra damage. You can run debuff on this, like you don't have to go for speed. You can run Draconic Hex, so you like throw a javelin at something, debuff its defensive stats and speed, so that your other hard carries are more likely to double it. So like these enemies, you know, they're quite fast, 34 speed. So if I look at some of my units, if I debuff them, I can now double them on Alear, for example, and on Chloe and on Ivy and on all these other units. So like debuffing is really useful, especially if you're running speed takers, and especially if you want to double these like super fast enemies. It's also really good for killing bosses because it just gives you, you know, more damage and it reduces the boss's speed. So it just tips the odds in your favor. Now the same thing is true of a longbow debuffer. You can run Draconic Hex on longbow and just shoot enemies, get a debuff, get some chip damage, run a crit engraving on the longbow, so you get like 10 to 20 crits similar to the Thoron build, but you want high strength units. And then the exact same thing is true for a Sage. You just run Thoron with a crit engraving, and most crit engravings also increase hit rate. The only one that doesn't, I believe, is Corrin, and I didn't recommend that one, so don't run Corrin, because that just gives you crit, it doesn't give you hit increase. You want the hit increase so that you reduce the randomness of using, you know, Thoron or longbow or whatever, so that you get chip damage plus a debuff every single time. And then your units can also just staff bot outside of that, so most of their XP comes from staff botting. And then for the Fram build, or really any Chi Adept build, you just run Flashing Fist, and you can beat things to death as needed. And generally you're going to want XP from something like Lucina, and staff botting and chain guarding. In this playthrough, I had a very aggressive team, and I didn't really chain guard much, I didn't really staff bot much. So this Fram is way under leveled for this mission. She's basically only leveled like 19 or something. So she is definitely way under leveled. She would usually be like level 30 to 35 by here. And if she's that level, she'll be much faster. So she's only like, you know, base 18 speed right now. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Feel free to drop a comment. We also have channel membership, and we live stream Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST. So I'll catch you in the live stream if you ever want to check that out. But yeah, peace.